Can our will actually be limitless? That's the really fascinating question sparked by the audio source we're diving into today.
Hmm.
It makes this incredibly bold statement. Nothing can withstand the will reaching infinity.
It's a powerful line, definitely.
It really is.
Oh.
So in this deep dive, we're going to try and unpack what that actually means. We'll explore the different kinds of will it talks about and, ultimately see what the source suggests about our potential for reaching this state of, well, infinity or wholeness.
Absolutely. And it's a compelling perspective the audio offers, even if it's a bit challenging, on both the power and maybe the limits of our will.
Yeah.
I think as we dig into these ideas, true desire, the ultimate object of desire, we'll find some, well, really thought-provoking stuff.
Okay, great. Let's get right to the core then. The audio starts with this big declaration, but then it immediately stresses that this kind of unstoppable will.
Yeah.
It's not just any old wish, right?
Right.
It makes a distinction between what it calls true will and false will. What seemed like the main difference there to you?
Well, what's really key, I think, is the idea of focus. The source argues that a true will is just laser focused, completely directed toward one single thing.
Mhm.
Like, think of a magnifying glass focusing sunlight, the more focused, the more power.
Yeah, makes sense.
Whereas a false will
Mm-hmm.
that's shown as being scattered, wanting lots of different things all at once.
Okay.
And the audio suggests this wanting multiple things. It points to an inner separation.
Yeah.
Like different bits of you are pulling in different directions, and that just weakens the overall force.
Right. Weakens the will.
Exactly. It uses this analogy about multiple wills having separate roots and being like an outer shell
Right.
compared to the single unified root of a true will.
That image works well. It's like trying to sail with anchors down in different places.
Yeah, something like that.
Then it brings in this quite intriguing, almost mythical sounding idea, referencing not being able to see a face in live, and it connects that to reaching infinity with the existence of consciousness, and then ties that to pretending, suggesting it applies to people who only do the bare minimum. How does that fit with the singular will idea?
It's interesting, isn't it, that allusion to this really intense, maybe overwhelming experience of facing something.
Hmm.
Absolute.
Yeah.
Maybe the slight misquote, if it is one, isn't about perfect accuracy, but more about getting across the sheer intensity needed to really engage with this infinity concept.
Okay. The intensity.
And this idea of pretending, just doing enough, it really highlights the lack of that total commitment. The audio links with true will. It's sort of saying, look, if your desire isn't so deep it actually transforms you, then your will just isn't strong enough to reach infinity. It points to a really fundamental, unwavering kind of dedication.
Okay, so commitment is key. So if we want to cultivate this powerful true will, the audio mentions three essential things. Desire, the person who desires, and an object of desire within them. It says desire is the bridge connecting us to what we want. That seems pretty clear, but then it adds this layer. That everything we desire has some inherent importance beyond just our immediate craving for it. Can you unpack that a little?
Yeah, that's a really interesting layer. It suggests our desires aren't just, random or isolated whims.
Right.
There's maybe a deeper connection where each thing we long for has a significance that goes beyond just us wanting it. And crucially, it draws a direct line between how badly we want something, the intensity of desire, and the strength of will needed to get it.
Ah, okay.
I mean, think about a time you really, truly wanted something deeply. You probably found this determination you didn't even know you had,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
That seems to resonate with this idea. The greater the desire, the greater the will it demands.
Okay, and this naturally leads to what the audio calls the ultimate target of desire, the wholeness of reality.
Mm-hmm. The big one.
Yeah. It stresses its infinite importance and argues that, to grasp this, our desire and our will need to be just as immense, just as infinite.
Well-
It also mentions how any other competing desire can kind of dilute this ultimate goal. It sounds almost like you can't half-heartedly aim for infinity.
Exactly. And if you link that back to the singular will idea, it just reinforces the point, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
This wholeness of reality is presented as the ultimate state. It encompasses everything, lacks nothing. So to truly aim for that with an infinite will, well, it implies no other desires can really hold the same weight.
It's all or nothing.
It seems like it, yeah. It's presented as kind of zero-sum game in that sense. Any divided focus just weakens the intensity of your will aimed at that ultimate wholeness. It's a very absolute viewpoint.
Then the audio moves into the nature of truth. It proposes there's one single foundational truth, And all other truths get their strength from that one. Without it, it claims, there's no real truth at all. This real truth is described as infinite, without any falsehood, and it's linked directly to this wholeness of unity. So getting this wholeness of truth, the ultimate desire, needs that true will again. It sounds like truth and wholeness are basically two sides of the same coin here.
What's fascinating there is that assertion of a primary fundamental truth. It's quite a hierarchical way of looking at it.
Like a tree trunk and branches.
Exactly like that, yeah. All other truths are like branches stemming from that single trunk. And this real truth, being infinite and pure, it aligns perfectly with the wholeness concept. Nothing missing, nothing false, nothing distorted.
Okay.
The audio suggests that unity, in its most complete form, and this ultimate truth are, well, essentially inseparable. Both represent a state of perfect completeness. And the key, like you said, is that accessing this requires that singular, unwavering true will.
Okay, but after building up this picture of the immense power of will, the audio throws in a pretty significant curveball, doesn't it? A constant of our world.
The limitation.
Right. It suggests that because we exist as separate beings, separate from infinity, we can't actually contain infinity within ourselves.
Yeah, this is where it gets grounded, maybe.
It draws a parallel to how our intellect works, how we inherently make distinctions, between something and nothing, or a thing and its opposite.
That's a key point.
It even defines true nothing as the infinite. While everything we see as something exists within space and time, this feels like a fundamental roadblock to actually reaching infinity.
It is, and this is where the audio brings in that crucial dose of, well, realism, maybe. While it talks up the potential of a focused will, it acknowledges this fundamental constraint based on our nature as finite beings.
Like trying to pour the ocean into a teacup.
Exactly that kind of idea. The container itself limits what it can hold. And the analogy to the intellect is insightful too, I think. Our minds work by creating categories, drawing lines, defining things, which inherently means separation.
Separating things from infinity, in a sense.
Precisely. And defining true nothing as the infinite and something as existing within space and time just highlights this fundamental divide, doesn't it? Between the boundless and the bounded, the finite us, and the infinite everything else.
Okay, so let's just quickly recap. We've explored this powerful idea that nothing can withstand the will reaching infinity, but with the critical understanding that this has to be a singular, intensely focused true will.
Right, directed at that ultimate goal.
Which is achieving the wholeness of reality, or ultimate truth. We looked at the three necessary parts: desire, the individual, and the object of desire within.
Yep, the components.
And then we hit this inherent limitation, our fundamental separateness as finite beings from the infinite itself.
Exactly. The audio presents this really compelling vision, the potential of our will when it's driven by deep desire and focused on wholeness. But importantly, it doesn't ignore what it sees as a fundamental reality check.
The check being
the inherent difference between our finite existence and the infinite nature of what we might ultimately be striving for.
Right. Which leaves us with a really provocative thought, I think, for everyone listening. If our very nature, our separateness, prevents us from fully containing infinity, as this source argues, then what does it truly mean to align our will with this infinite wholeness? Is the act of striving, the journey itself, maybe of the real significance, rather than ever achieving some absolute final attainment?
That's a deep question to ponder. Is the reaching towards infinity the point?
Exactly. Something to think about. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We definitely encourage you to keep reflecting on these pretty profound ideas.